You're watching the Ice Bears post-game show, sponsored by Civil Kitchen. I'm Steve Casson, the assistant coach of the Ice Bears, and Cliff Cook. And Missouri State, Cliff, they get wins this weekend, but do you sometimes shake your head and think, they shouldn't have been this close?
I'm not sure about sometimes. I think it's more frequently than we care to admit. But, we dig ourselves a hole with some undisciplined hockey, and you can't do that against this conference, this division. There's too many teams that, go a full 60 minutes of effort, and sometimes we kind of get caught up in lagging in that, and our discipline becomes kind of our Achilles heel, and that happened again this weekend.
Yesterday, a 5-2 win. Jared Bratton.
Don't worry, it actually happened on the bench tonight.
Oh, really? That's
yes.
Good. So Jared Bratton gets the hat trick and 2 power play goals. Missouri State took until the second period to get things going. And pretty much, in a sense, halfway through the first period in today's game, which was a 3-1 victory. But it was a close game late in the contest. And we talk about this all the time, but is this a situation where teams are playing down to teams' ability, or what if you could pick that apart, how do you pick it apart?
I think there were a couple issues at hand. One, we've seen, just as you talked about, we've got a bit of a habit of playing down to a level, and that's nothing against Oklahoma. They play hard, just like Colorado did last week. They just keep coming. They may not have the depth of us and the depth of a UCO, but they just keep coming at you. And then the other issue is, and I'll be the first to admit there's probably some of that even with the coaching staff, is looking ahead to next weekend, because we know how big that's going to be.
And we're talking about University of Central Oklahoma. Basically, whoever sweeps is going to take first place.
True, and as we're recording this conversation right now, there's a big game happening later tonight with UCO and Colorado, and we're kind of pulling for the Buffs there, but the reality is, no matter what happens tonight, next weekend's huge, and it's going to take, like you said, it's going to take a sweep most likely from either team. I mean, that's going to be for the title, basically.
You're watching the Ice Bears post-game show, sponsored by Civil Kitchen. Steve Casson, along with the assistant coach and Cliff Cook of Missouri State. And Cliff, you have guys now that you can insert into the lineup that are making things happen. You've had some injuries, you've had players not play. And all of a sudden, it's kind of like you don't really have to blink your eye. You've got the guy in the lineup that can take their spot.
Yeah, it's the mentality in any sport at any level. It's the next man up. And when you lose guys, especially when you lose guys that are productive and put points up on the board, and you got to wonder who's going to take over that role. And in a short 2-game sample, I'd say Jared Bratton is kind of made a name for himself, and you could tell tonight, even when he wasn't putting pucks in the net, he's just feeling it. And the same could be said, on all sides of the rink, from other forwards who stepped up and had great weekends. Guys we depend on usually still had good weekends, and then defensemen were stepping up, and then Matt Griffin had a phenomenal weekend.
Don't want to take away from Matt Griffin, who played both games and played amazing. He's now won 3 in a row.
Yeah. All with the new pillows.
Yeah, that's true, with the new nice ones too. The one thing that I think that may become, and I'm just noticing it the last few games, may become an Achilles heel for the Ice Bears is penalties.
Yeah, and like you said, we talked about it a minute ago, the discipline became a bit of an issue. Obviously there's always going to be some calls that we as a team are going to question, but at the same time, even questionable calls, you put yourself in a situation to give the referee an opportunity to call it. That's on us. And so you can't do that against the UCO. The UCO is deadly on the power play. Now the bonus is they take a lot of penalties. So, if we can keep our emotions in check, play the game the right way, play it honest, then there's going to be opportunities for us to capitalize. But again, that's on us to prepare properly this week. It's a big week of practice ahead of us in preparation for the biggest weekend, one of the biggest weekends, I would argue, in my short time, the history of this program, quite honestly, when you're talking about a potential conference title, which we've never done before.
And the Ice Bears will take on Central Oklahoma next weekend for the battle of first place in the WCHL. This has been the Ice Bears post-game show, sponsored by Civil Kitchen. I'm Steve Casson. He is Cliff Cook, the assistant coach of the Ice Bears. Thanks for watching.